So I'm going to do a little bit of story time about why I'm a lawyer.
Hi, I'm Dafan the ProfessorZ, your real-life homeless to Ivy League professor, attorney, and serial entrepreneur.
Hi everyone, welcome to my drive time story time. First of all, who'd have thought? As soon as I start this drive time story time, I no longer drive. I'm stuck here at home just like many of you because of this whole virus situation. I should be thankful that I'm home, I have somewhere to be, and I can continue to do the things I want to do. So that's not so bad. But it is kind of tough to not be able to go to school, to not be able to get out much, and to be stuck at home most of the time. The kids drive me crazy, right? Probably does to many of you too. So I sympathize. So I'm going to do a little bit of story time about why I'm a lawyer. So I really never thought that I would ever want to be a lawyer, to be honest. As a matter of fact, growing up, I really disliked anything in that field. I wanted to be an engineer, I wanted to be a techie, I wanted to have skills, but not necessarily work with people. So teaching and lawyering, both of those things, I really just didn't see it when I was younger. I've always appreciated who lawyers are, what they did, and how much money they can make. That's one of the things, right? When you can't have it, you always kind of have some respect for it because, well, you can't have it. So I guess about 10 years ago, no, a little bit more, about 13, 14 years ago, when I was going through some tough times and I start to reassess my life and see what I want to do next. And one of the options was a lawyer. There's a little bit more story to that, and I'll get to that in a second. But I zoned in on being a lawyer as a good option for me to pursue because, partially because they made a lot of money. And beyond the money part, though, is that lawyers generally have this independence. They have this independence because I think if you ever want to run your own business and you know there will be a need and you can make good money, that will be a lawyer or a doctor, right? Usually we'll talk about people that make a lot of money and do well in life. You say doctors and lawyers, doctors and lawyers. Well, I knew I was going to be a doctor because I really did not like biology, was never good at it. But lawyer seems like something that I could be good at. I had some exposure to lawyers earlier in life, especially when I ran my first startup. So here's the part one story of why I became a lawyer. Is when I was running my startup, the first one, and I invented a process to basically collect information on a handheld computer. And mind you, this is 20 some years ago. So the handhelds were Palm Pilots and Pocket PCs. These are late 90s, early 2000s. So I made software for Palm Pilots and Pocket PCs, and I let users collect data in the field, and then they can upload the data into a central database on the internet, and we can run data analysis and generate reports and do a bunch of things with the data. So it's the early stages of not quite AI machine learning, but big data analysis, and making business decisions based on collected data. So that was really that was a new frontier back then, and I invented this process. It was working well, and I had clients that everybody thought it was great. A couple of professors actually even wrote a research paper around that and got published. So it was suggested to me that I get the process patented. And for those of you who don't know, I actually teach intellectual property law. I teach patent stuff now, and I happen to have a patent of my own now. But back then, I knew very little about patents. I did go online, look it up, and realized that a patent is something that can give you exclusive rights to the invention that you came up with if the patent was granted. However, because it's very powerful, you get exclusive rights to use the technology for 20 years or more, and no one else can use it. So it's very valuable if you had a patent. So in order to get a patent, you have to deal with the government. You have to apply for a patent with the Patent and Trademark Office. You have to go back and forth with the government until they grant you the patent. So it's specialized even for lawyers. It's a specialized legal field. So lawyers obviously cost a lot of money. And I went to see a couple of lawyers, and I was quoted. I don't remember exactly, but I was quoted probably somewhere between $10,000 and $20,000 in order to get this patent applied. And at the time, I was doing okay. Like, I mean, I was doing well in my startup, but wasn't making millions of dollars. But we had good revenue, and I was living well. And for me to consider spending $10,000, $20,000, and that was just a starting price. That's not even a guaranteed final price. So for me to spend that amount of money, I'm not sure if it was worth it, right? So I needed my lawyer at the time to tell me exactly why I'm doing this. And I don't even remember exactly what he said, but obviously, in hindsight, I think as any other patent practitioner, patent lawyer would tell you, they told me what I would get if I got a patent, how important it is to get it, and and the cost involved because it's complex and it costs a lot of time. It costs them a lot of time. That's why it's expensive. So at the end of the day, I was left with a decision to pay the money to get a patent or to apply for a patent or just forego the patent process. And, if you can't tell, I didn't get it. The reason I didn't get it was as much as the lawyer told me how important it was to have a patent, he never put it in the way I understood. He didn't frame it a way for me as a business person to let me see what potential benefits I can have other than the on-the-face technical legal benefit of having a patent. Now, that's very important. So I think a good lawyer, any kind of lawyer, should be able to explain this legal process to their clients in a meaningful way that the clients will fully understand. I'm not saying that the lawyer didn't explain it. He just didn't explain it the way that resonated with me or was important to me. So long story short, I didn't do the patent, and a couple years, maybe a year or two later, a deal was proposed to me that a large national company was going to buy my company, purchase the software and the technology that I made, and have me help the company using my invention make the next generation software for that company, a large company. A term sheet was presented to me. I was supposed to get a lot of money, multi-million dollars, and as well as getting a very good salary. I think at the time, maybe, don't exactly remember, but at least $500,000 salary, plus the payout for buying the technology and the business to be able to, use my technology for this large company. They did their due diligence, and as it turned out, they found out that I didn't have a patent. I didn't have any protection for the technology. Anyone can just copy it. So I'm not saying they copied it, but they no longer see the value of paying me that amount of money to buy something that they have to build for the next version. So that deal fell apart. On the other hand, that the dot-com boom and bust contributed to that as well, because this was around 2001. So I think if I was a couple of years earlier, I probably would have still gotten funded or gotten bought out, regardless of the patent situation. But either way, I think at that time, people weren't throwing money at tech companies anymore, so they really wanted to buy something tangible, and I didn't have anything tangible for them to buy. So the deal fell through. I don't really fault the attorney because he couldn't have foreseen that would be a trigger for the deal not happening. But at the end of the day, I think I never understood the importance of having that patent. If I understood, I think I would have gone for it, knowing how much I could gain and how much the cost was. $20,000 was still a lot of money. It was still a lot of money then. It's still a lot of money now. But absolutely, I would do it now. As a matter of fact, any new ideas I come up with now, including the patent I got granted, I go and try to apply for a patent, or at least look into if I can apply for a patent before I act on the technology. So lesson learned, right? That was a harsh lesson because imagine if I actually own a patent on data collection and internet data gathering. Hey, I might have many more zeros behind my names, but who don't know? Maybe it wouldn't have worked out. But you don't want to live your life and having make mistakes like that. So I always felt, well, the lawyer might be competent in the lawyer sense, but he wasn't as helpful to me as he could have been as a counselor, as a advisor. So when I was back to 13 years ago, when I was considering the next step in my life, and I decided to be a lawyer, partially because I feel like I have a ability to work with clients and to be able to understand their needs and suggest a good course of action for my clients. And second, I want to help other people just like me. Because at the time, I wouldn't say I was bitter, but it was a tough time period for me. And I felt at the time that if I got good counsel, maybe I wouldn't have been in that position in the first place. So, yeah. And then I also, at around the same time, at my last real job, I ran a newspaper website for a major Philadelphia newspaper. And when we were negotiating a deal on that for that paper, I worked with an attorney who was actually a well-known IP attorney from a large law firm, and I spent many hours teaching the attorney what we did because he really just did not understand quite as much as he should. So we end up paying a whole lot of money, his hourly fees for him to learn the business I'm trying to teach him. And I end up reviewing the contract before I passed it off to him because he asked me to look at the contract first. So I learned that I have the potential to do well as at least a technology lawyer because I understand technology quite a bit. I understand business quite a bit. And if I can, get the law part down, if I can become a lawyer, I probably can create a niche working with startups and tech companies and uniquely serve their needs because I used to be on the other side of the table. So that was another motivation for me to become a lawyer. And so it just felt like the skill set will be it will be invaluable going forward. And it turned out to be pretty accurate because ever since then, I've brought a unique skill set to most of my clients, both in a business capacity, because as a business advisor, now I have a legal background, and as a legal advisor, I have a business background, and altogether, I have a tech background, very strong tech background. So a tech company looking for an outside advisor, I'm a very good fit. So that's worked out very well. And lastly, just to give you a little lighthearted story, one of the last push for me to start law school or for me to go toward being a lawyer is because my wife dared me to do so. How did that work? We were in a personal legal situation, and I was sitting in the courtroom with her at the time in a county court. And we didn't have a lawyer, so we had to wait there until all the cases with lawyers on the case gets heard. If you didn't know that, because clients have to pay for a lawyer's time, courts usually hear cases with lawyers on them first, so the clients won't unnecessarily have their lawyers wait. And so we were sitting there listening to sitting in the courtroom listening to these cases, and then I was like, I think I can be a better judge than this judge in front of us. And me overconfident. That's not an unusual thing. But anyway, I feel like I could do a better job, well, at least as good of a job. But I really think I could have done a better job. So my wife's like, well, maybe, but you're never going to be able to do it. I said, why not? She said, because you have to be a lawyer to be a judge. I said, okay, so if I think I can be a lawyer, if I think I can be a judge, I most definitely can be a lawyer. She's like, yeah, sure, but if you want to be a lawyer, you have to go to college first. And I said, well, I guess I'll go to college. And she's like, okay, you haven't even gotten 1 year of credits and you dropped out of college, and how are you going to go to college? How are you going to go to law school? How are you going to be a lawyer? So it was hard for me to argue with her about that, right? Because at the time, I was a high school college dropout, and I had never planned to go back to college. By the way, I never, ever planned to go back to college. I really didn't see the point at the time. But I went home, and I thought long and hard, and I just couldn't let that one go. Because I really feel like I could actually do it and do it well. And it was around the same time that I was starting to think that I need to find something else to do with my life, and lawyer might actually be a possibility. So her little push got me to look at being a lawyer seriously. And on my own, without her knowledge, I went and looked up law school, what it takes to get into law school, what it means to attend law school. I even downloaded a sample LSAT, the law school admission test. I did a few questions, and I found the questions interesting and doable, and I feel like I could do it well. So I decided to formally pursue going back to school and go to law school and become a lawyer. And, her push, her telling me that I couldn't do it was not really all the reason that I became a lawyer, but it really was the push to get me off my ass and to take the next step. So I will always be grateful for her for that. And also, it makes a great story. And I tell it all the time when people ask me why did I become a lawyer. So I have her to thank for that joke and for that story as well. In the next drive time, well, should I continue to call it drive time? Okay. In the next story time, I will talk about how I went to college the first time and how I went back to college and that journey. So stay tuned for that. But hopefully you got a little bit of a lighthearted chuckle and enjoyed my little story time about why I became a lawyer. And I certainly am grateful and blessed that I became a lawyer, am a lawyer, and continue to be able to practice law. Even though I don't do it full time, obviously I'm a professor, but I don't really do anything full time. I just do everything to the best of my abilities. And I really do enjoy being a lawyer, and I enjoy giving advice to clients. And I enjoy being able to bring something to the table that other people need, and it's hard to get from somewhere else. So this journey has been well worth it. And on top of that, I got to go to one of the best law schools in the country, and have made a lot of good friends and made a lot of good connections. And that's why I'm paying it forward and then telling the story, and hopefully I can inspire some of you, if any of you who wants to pursue that career, to just go do it, and you will benefit from it. So until next time, this is Dafan the ProfessorZ, story time. See you next time.